authentic magical equipment. Contemporary occultism can be appealing yet very confusing to those who are involved or are being drawn to the magical arts. The rewards are varied, the potential is vast, yet the pitfalls are many. No area is perhaps more confusing than that of magical equipment. This is probably the first honest discussion you will hear on the subject, so before you buy anything or add to your collection, do listen carefully to the ideas presented to you in this article. They could save you a lot of time and money. Magical equipment falls into two categories: straightforward equipment such as thuribles, crystal balls, candle holders, and swords, or ritually enhanced items such as magical pentacles, gemstones, and waters. With regard to the former, always remember that it is not the equipment which is magical. It is the way in which you use it that matters. The magic is within you. Buying a magical sword made to the specifications given in some grimoire does not ensure that your rituals will be a success or that you will gain insight into magical truths. The prime rule of magic is: do not do or say anything which you do not understand. The same applies to equipment. Don't buy magical equipment unless you know how to use it. Learning how to use it is another story. But briefly, returning to the magical sword once more, here are two different ways of looking at this. It may well tell you in the book that you stand in your circle, now available in cheap plastic, and command the spirits to obey. In order to avoid upsetting the more sensitive of our listeners, I will refrain from using certain Anglo-Saxon words and say instead, tripe. Such thinking is inaccurate and downright silly. Any demon worthy of the name is likely to hop over your plastic circle and tie a knot in your sword of power. That is, if there were such things as demons anyway. From a realistic point of view, a magical sword is a symbol which, when used correctly, helps focus the mind in a particular manner. It is the way in which you work with the symbol itself which is important, not the sword, which is in reality only a piece of metal. In order to gain the power represented by the sword, or any other of the four magical weapons, it is necessary to spend long periods in contemplation and meditation, slowly establishing the reality of this symbol. By a gradual process of association and discovery, the symbol of the sword reveals its true nature to those who have the will and determination to seek. The end product is that when the sword symbol is seen in the imagination, the mind is focused along a specific channel of energy. And by continuing this process both inwardly and outwardly, this energy can be directed and used. This may sound very complicated, but in essence it is not. The subconscious mind, which is the real seat of power, reacts to symbols. You can wave your gold-plated magical sword and shout words of power for the rest of your life, and nothing will ever happen. If, however, you work with the symbol alone, gradually building up information and understanding of its true nature, you are bound to get results. Using this technique, you are presenting a symbol to your subconscious mind, a symbol which it understands. The more you work with it, the more you learn, and the more reaction you get from the subconscious level of awareness. Later on, the act of making or buying a physical representation of this sword is bound to be more fruitful than buying it just because it's the done thing. Your physical sword then means something, and so when you use it ritually, you are indeed handling a true sword of power. The same can be said for the other three magical weapons, the wand, the cup, and the shield or pentacle. The wand and shield should be made by yourself, and any symbols placed on these should be fully understood, or they are ineffective. In purchasing other items, exercise choice and a sense of proportion. For instance, there is absolutely no need to spend £100 on a crystal ball when you can get a smaller one for about £20. The size, price, and indeed the material are generally matterless. What really matters is how you use it. To presume that you must have rock crystal ground to fine tolerances is superstition and sheer folly, as well as being needlessly expensive. Suppose you need something to burn incense in. Weigh up what you need against the cost. If you only want to perfume the room or temple, then an inexpensive metal bowl will do. If you really have to fumigate every corner, then consider a thurible. But don't be swayed by cost. Small thuribles are just as good as large ones. From the opposite point of view, you can use ordinary candles bought from a store, or you can purchase these direct from people who make these things specifically for magical work. Obviously, your own abilities will dictate how successfully these can be used, but at least you will have the benefit of having candles specially made to your requirements, and the cost is justified in this case. Never buy expensive items just because the literature tells you that these will make your rituals work regardless of expertise. But by the same token, never cut corners. In magic, you get out in proportion to what you put in. This does not mean that you have to spend a fortune in order to be a success, but it does mean that you ought to think about what you intend to do, consider all aspects, and make or buy whatever you need with a sense of balance. If you decide to take shortcuts and half measures, throw together a few cheap bits and pieces, and feel satisfied that you have deprived the system of a few pounds, you are wasting your time. You are not putting anything in. More important, you are not giving of yourself. All too often, rituals fail due to over-dependence on equipment, which is superstition, or a half-hearted shambles caused by cutting corners. Don't make this mistake. Study your magic. Adapt whatever you can and purchase wisely. If in doubt, either ask someone who knows about such things or contact your supplier. Any reputable dealer will be pleased to help you, providing that you keep to the point and enclose a stamped addressed envelope. Like any other aspect of purchasing, there are charlatans and get-rich-quick merchants, and not every supplier is a fully practicing occultist. Beware of the ones who show a complete lack of interest and give you vague answers or try to sell you instant magic. There is no such thing. Certain items will have to be purchased from specialist suppliers. These people are not always easy to find, as they tend to keep themselves out of the limelight. If you are looking for something special, then do let us know. We can usually trace the supplier for you free of charge. Among specialist items must surely come incense. Take it from me that general incenses can be bought almost anywhere. But if you really want the best, authentic, traditional incenses, then an occult supply, who lets someone else do all the work, then steal the idea and market a cheaper and often inferior product. This is certainly true with incense. After browsing through Miss Bruce's catalogue, you will be surprised to see the similarity between her own descriptions and those of other people. You will be even more surprised when you compare the products. Sense and a poor imitation, even if this is cheaper. Among specialist items should be listed those items which are magically enhanced for a specific purpose. Remember that no matter how adept the suppliers of these things are, in the final analysis it is down to your ability to work with and use these things. Don't presume that they will automatically ensure success. They won't, and any genuine supplier will tell you this. Like the magic sword, you have to work with these items for maximum effect. A truly magical talisman can transform your life, providing that you don't sit around and hope that the world will heap vast fortunes on you. It won't. A talisman, correctly made, will, however, provide opportunity and help in many ways. Exactly the same can be said with pentacles and magical seals. If these are made properly, they can do a great deal for your magical work. Always bear in mind that just because it is an ancient design, be this from the Key of Solomon or any other source book, this in itself will be of no value to you unless you fully understand the symbology and the thinking which went into these diagrams. The fact that they are made in parchment or solid gold will not alter this fact. They are of no more value than lucky charms or as collector's pieces. Just as a plaster cast of the great god Pan will not give you power, so will a Solomonic seal of Jupiter not necessarily bring you good fortune. Follow the rule. Think, buy wisely, and deal with specialist or reputable suppliers who show some interest in what you are doing and the way in which they sell goods to you. Any genuine occult supplier will be willing to advise and help, but do remember that to reply may take some time due to pressures of work. And like all occultists, we get our fair share of problems which need solving right away, together with the odd weirdo who desperately needs anything from human bones to fresh graveyard earth. We always try to help, but how would you reply?